Hello, 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 hello. Can you hear me? You see me?
Stephen, can you hear me, man?
Yeah, what's happening, man?
How you doing, bro? How are you?
All good, all good. Let me just see. Um, the volume. Can you hear me good? Yeah, through the
Yeah, I can hear you
microphone. And
perfect. Can you hear me?
yeah, yeah, all good.
I
What's
love
happening?
your little office, man.
This is my sister's room, man.
Is it? I love it, man. This is where it all begins. Hold on there.
Oh man, my room is in a state. I
Yeah.
didn't want to I didn't want to expose you to my room, so my sister doesn't really live here, so it's a spare room in my parents' house up in the attic.
Happy days, man. Hold on there. I'm just going to.
No worries. Are you out today for a swim?
This mic give me a bit of hassle. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah.
Hello,
Are you out
hello,
for a
hello.
swim today?
Yeah, man. I was down to 44. Literally about an hour ago. So I still have all them sea dipping endorphins in me.
Nice.
It was beautiful there. Did you get out for one?
No, I today see because I live so far away. It's like obviously I don't go. I would love to go if I was living closer.
Yeah,
I'd go as much as possible. But I
yeah,
told Sam I'd meet him on Sunday for an old full. It's full moon on Sunday,
yeah.
so
Down for that,
an
man.
old. Yeah. I think that's the last when I seen you the first time. It was on the full moon down there.
Sorry, man. No, that's working now. Sorry, I had this interference in my ear, and I knew it was going to drive me mad for the whole thing. So I have it sorted now. Yeah, man. The full moon be
Is it
class.
sorted? Yeah. Yeah, I was down there last time. It was great. There's a lot of people actually down. Surprisingly, didn't think there was so many down there in the evening.
Yeah, yeah. It is. It's where are you guys thinking of going? The Voico or the 44?
No, I think we'll go to 40 foot. Like,
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'll see us down there. I think
yeah,
one or two of the lads said they're going down as well, and I think one of the lads' girlfriends are
yeah.
that mad into the cacao, and they do like for a bit of bread work and a bit of cacao,
Oh,
and
nice.
yeah. So I went down to the Vico yesterday, and it was actually lovely. It was really rough. I couldn't get into the sea. Just got into the bath, and I actually sat in Wim Hof with some other lady. We were just chatting, and I said, "Do you mind? I'm just going to do a bit of Wim Hof before I get in." And she was like, "Oh, no worries. Do you mind if we do it with you?" So the two of us just started doing the Wim Hof, and we got in, and yeah, it was class.
Nice. I mean,
Yeah.
I say you meet a lot of people down there, like just all walks of life. But say it's great crack, like having
Oh
chats every
man,
day with
it's
everybody down
unreal. That's actually like I just read up a little kind of intro thing here for the podcast, and that's just one of the things we
there. Yeah,
said. Hold on there. So yeah, man.
yeah. How does it work?
So yeah, man. Basically, the podcast is just I like to do them like a state of flow, with no questions written down, just a bit of an intro. Hold on, it works of life, and yeah, we just kind of have a chat, and the thing is, it's just we're putting it out there for people that, like, that like you have a profound story. The fact that you went from like the poker, and then you had the kind of thing with the mental health, and then that led you on a bit of a seeking journey, and where you are now, and how you're at peace in yourself, and you just have this sort of peaceful aura. And I don't like, and I'm just attracted towards certain people's aura and their energy and their mindset, and that's really the only people that kind of ask come onto the podcast, and I can get that with you. So I think you just telling
Mm.
your story, man, and your whole philosophy and your understanding of life is it's just naturally going to help so many people. Like, and that's all. It's a mental health podcast, and if anyone's listening and they can relate or resonate, happy days. So
Yeah,
that's my
I gave a few. I gave two. I was out running last night, and I listened to one of them that you had with a mate of yours that's in the band. I don't know what it was.
Scotty.
Yeah, yeah. And another one with a Buddhist lad. Yeah, they were nice, just nice flow conversations. Like,
Yeah, that's what I like to do, man. It's just a normal conversation. It's just a chat. I haven't got any questions written down. We just do it in a state of flow, and just see what the universe wants us to disclose to the public. Sound good?
happy days.
Cheers, bro. Right, I'll do an intro, and we get it going.
No worries.
Are we recording? Yeah, sweet. Right. Hello, friends. How are you? How are you getting on? My name is Colin, and this is the Sober Mess podcast. And you're very welcome. I hope you're having a lovely, gentle day. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Stephen Malone. I was introduced to Stephen again through the sea swimming, like you meet most great people. Most great people you meet down at the sea, you meet people from all walks of life who've been on journeys, walked interesting paths, and are carrying incredible stories. And Stephen is one of those people. Stephen went from professional poker to go on to become a yogi and study the yoga philosophy in a yoga retreat in southern France. He's one of the most spiritual lads in Lucan. So I'm absolutely chuffed and over the moon to have my good friend Stephen on the podcast. So, Steve, how are you, brother?
How's it going? It's some intro that.
How you getting on, man?
I'm very good, yeah, very good here up in the attic of my parents' house in Lucan, as you said.
Very, very spiritual, man. That's how monks live in retreats. It's not in caves, and it's in attics in the parents' houses.
Anywhere, man, it can be anywhere in the world. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's all about the inner peace, man, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so we were chatting the other day, we went for a dip there in Killiney, and then we were up in Killiney Hill, and we were just had to have a very nice conversation. And you were just telling me your story about how you went from like the poker to going on to study like yoga and the philosophy of yoga. And I just thought that was powerful, tell us about your story. How did all this come about? How did you get into the poker?
Um, I got into poker when I was about 16 or 17. Like just like I say, a lot of people at the time. So I'm 33 now. Like poker was kind of getting a lot of mainstream attention on the TV, and maybe people remember watching it on telly and stuff. So I started playing with the lads. We used to have a few cans and put a fiver in each. You know what I mean? And from there, I just had the love of strategy and how the mind works and how
Mm.
people act. That kind of now, obviously, it was for a laugh then. Now I didn't take it seriously for many years. I done other stuff. I was working with kids in outdoor education, different things. And actually, I got sick in Thailand. I got dengue fever, and I actually had to come home after a few weeks. And I still was into poker, like at the time. But my friends that didn't go traveling the route that I took continued to play poker like full time. So I still knew them and I met up with them, and actually just one Sunday I played a tournament online. It was an $11 tournament and I won $18,000 like that Sunday.
Wow.
And that was like a big win obviously. And that started then. I met people through my friends. Became very lucky actually because some of the people I met actually were some of the very good online players in the world, and they coached me and they taught me actually how to play. Um,
And
I
why did
thought it
they
was,
pick, why did they pick you is it because you won that tournament and they seen something in you and they kind of
um, well, I actually went to Tomorrowland with them. Back then, I was obviously into partying and all that, and we just made friends. It wasn't about
okay,
like poker and like
yeah,
there can be a lot of ego in poker, like, but there was none of that. That weekend was just all about making friends, and then after that, I just obviously became friendly with them, and in the end, I moved to Mexico actually with some of them to live in apartments there, and we just grinded is when you play poker, a lot of tournaments at one time, like, and as the years went on, I just obviously became better because you surround yourself with people in that kind of circle, you're obviously going to get better at a certain. It doesn't matter what it is. It can be meditation, it can be poker. Can if you surround
so
yourself with people
true.
that
Yes,
are in
can it
that vibration, you know what I mean?
yeah, can even be like mindset or like your whole kind of if you're around positive people, like whatever you ingest and like, constantly surround yourself in, that's what you'll become like.
Yeah, and they say that like that 10,000 hours theory. Like if you put, not that I put, well, I probably did put a lot of it, but if you put enough time into something and you're dedicated towards it.
Mm.
And at the time, I was obsessed with poker. Like a lot of people, maybe it's bordering on like an addiction, like looking back on it. Um, And even then, now looking back, I probably wasn't even as good as I thought I was, but I did have something that I don't know. I was doing well anyway online, and I done well then in some live tournaments. I played in a lot of European tournaments in America and traveled around like with the same kind of group of people, you know.
Mm.
Yeah, it was a mad roller coaster, to be honest.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? And like I say, that was like some lifestyle, like because you played in Vegas as well, didn't you? And like I
Yeah,
think you're telling me that story there. What you were kind of one good hand away from winning nearly 2 million in a game of poker.
well, it was 1.2 million for the winner in the tournament in Barcelona. So put it in perspective, it's like 5,000 euro to enter the tournament. There was 1,600 people I think entered, and I got down to the last 9 people, and though I was one hand away from being second in chips with 8 left, maybe I wouldn't have won the fourth prize, but I would have definitely become like a lot more money than what I actually won. But that's so in life, isn't it? I wouldn't be here today if I had won that tournament, and who knows how life turns out then, you know.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? How things would have changed. Like that's I suppose that's the universe gives us what we
Yeah.
need, not what we want. If we got what we wanted all the time, it probably wouldn't be good for us. Yeah, that's powerful. And like, how did that go? That lifestyle go for you in the whole kind of poker buzz?
Um. To be honest, I mean, it looks from the outside uh, like a glamorous, and it was. Don't get me wrong. I had great experiences. Like I traveled a lot, and I got to see a lot, made a lot of friends and stuff. But it comes with when money is around. Like I always thought I wanted to have a lot of money when I was younger. Like that would make me happy, you know. When I have X amount, I can do that. I'll have that, and I think the realization came when I had probably the most money most money I ever had in cash, or in online poker accounts, whatever. And it was probably the most miserable I've ever been. Like there was a lot of mental health issues. Now looking back, I mean, at the time I didn't really know. There was always chasing the buzz, chasing something, drinking or partying or
Mm,
whatever it was. Like and I suffered a lot with panic attacks back then, and just anxiety all the time. In a state of like always in this contraction and state, like that, and not realizing it. It's not even
yeah.
it's real unconscious.
Yeah, it's mad, isn't it? I can identify a lot with that because with me
Yeah,
and I suppose me looking for things on the outside of myself always came hand in hand with my anxiety and panic attacks and things like that. And it's like when I used alcohol or anything I can find on the outside of myself it was like a medication. It was like a medication I used to heal these wounds that I had. You know what I mean? And I think this anxiety and panic attacks, it was stemming from unresolved it's just stuff that I had that I was carrying and I wasn't even aware of. Like, and if you were to see like a flower out in the garden and that flower, its petals or its leaves are starting to look a bit withered, you wouldn't treat the petals of the leaves. You'd go straight to the roots. You'd nourish the roots, and that's what I wasn't doing. I was looking for the thing on the outside to fix me. It's like if you were sitting in the dark in the sitting room, you're like, I need light in here, and you go into the bathroom and turn on the light and come back into the sitting room, sit down in the dark and go, why is it still dark in here? It's because we're always looking for the solution on the outside,
yeah,
rather than looking on the inside. And that's the thing. We're always looking for the easy thing, or this will fix me, that will fix me. Nice shiny carrot in the distance, like, and then we get there and we realize, hey, this isn't it either, like.
yeah, yeah. And I guess that just. I mean, even now, it's a never-ending process. I'm not saying like I definitely have more peace of mind that came, but like even looking back, you know, I guess the whole process itself had to happen the way it happened for me. I mean, I don't know how other people go through their ups and downs in life, but the downs or whatever you want to call them, what is good and bad at the end of the day, that's something which I like to look at now. You know what? Like that whole thing about the tournament, like getting knocked out in ninth. At the time I was devastated. I cried like over that, you know what I mean?
Mm,
And now looking back, like that what's good and bad, like that led me here. So, it's like
yeah.
X 22, and as you said, the universe. will lead you the way, whatever way it wants. Like you don't really have a choice in it. You just
Yeah.
you have to jump on the horse. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, 100%. And that's, I love
Yeah.
that
So
way that kind of turned into a gift for you. Like, you know, it went from like at the time it was such a burden, but now you looking at it now, it turned out to be a gift because it was like a catalyst that catapulted you into the life that you have now. And the same way as like I'm reading a great book now from Edith Adgar, and she thought she was a prisoner in one of the concentration camps in Germany, and she she talks about like her experience from these camps were obviously horrific, but today she labels that like, her past as her gift and how she can use that to transcend her experience to benefit other people, that she can connect with other people on a much deeper level. And it's one of her like superpowers is that she has this kind of past that and she developed this deeper level of empathy and understanding and connection with people who may also be going through their own struggles and their own kind of challenges, but she wouldn't have got this experience if it wasn't for her when she went to this concentration camp and went through what she did go through. And it's what she's basically saying is that through every kind of setback we get a gift, and that gift is called experience, you know, and from experience we gain wisdom, like, you know.
yeah, I think my mom's actually reading that book at the minute. She was actually telling me about it. I think it's the same one anyway. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah, it's very interesting with, I mean, with anybody in life, whatever kind of setback, or you want to say they've been the dark night of the soul or whatever it's said in some spiritual kind of things. It's like, at the time you don't really see it as that, but it's where you do the most learning and most processing that goes on in that time. Yeah,
Mm.
at the time it probably doesn't seem like it's a great thing, but when you come out the other side, you can also help other people then kind of navigate themselves through that in a way, when you've been through it yourself. Like,
Yeah, and like, how did you go then from like poker to like what was your kind of rock bottom there? Like, what did you hit a rock bottom that kind of led you on the kind of seeking
yes,
path?
yeah, like I guess the rock bottom would have been I just finished the summer in Vegas. I'd lost not only my own money, but obviously other people were like, I'd friends, we were putting in money. So I'd lost some money for other people and my own money. And also I partied a lot that summer. Um, and so when you know yourself, I don't know if you have, when you've had panic attacks, like they come on, if you keep like perpetuating them. So you keep drinking or partying or hiding away your emotions and how you're dealing with whatever you're dealing with. At the end of that summer, I ended up back here, and I was like, there has to be more than life than this. Like I
Mm.
literally couldn't move. Like, and I don't know how, but somehow, and maybe some people have heard of ayahuasca, but it kept coming up for me like on either I was on the internet and I'd see it, and I heard about it through a documentary years ago on Netflix. I think Joe Rogan or someone was like mentioning it. Anyway, I researched it, and I went and done a ceremony, which they're called ceremonies, like, or whatever you want to, like, in Europe for a weekend. And that took a bit of courage just to kind of, because I didn't really know too much about it. So I just went on my own, like,
Mm.
changed my life literally after that weekend. I mean, it's hard to explain what happens in them kind of things. It's like ayahuasca is it's a mixture of two plants, and you drink it, and it kind of it's an hallucinogenic or a psychedelic, as they call them, but it also makes you dive deep inside your psyche, into the mind, into how your structure of your ego, or all of these things, and it brings out a
Mm.
lot of darkness also, but also makes you see a lot of what you're missing. And that was a slow start. Then I after that I just started to slowly change. It wasn't just like in a month or two, everything changed. It was a slow process then.
Kind of like planted a seed in your head, sort of
Exactly.
thing. But like that's like the ayahuasca. Yeah, I've done kind of research on it, and obviously someone in recovery, I'm always skeptical of using, of someone that had I suppose, a substance dependency issue using a substance. to kind of fix me substance dependency issue, like, you know, and but I'm always intrigued by it, you know. I'm like the guy that is like holding the rope of the other guy going down the hole, and I'm like, so what do you see down there? Tell me, you know. I just like to kind of like observe from a distance, you know. I don't think it's anything I would ever take, you know, one day at a time. But I know just from kind of hearing stories that they talk about, you know, the annihilation of your ego, where it's just your pure untethered energy there. And when you take this, it relieves you of your ego, of your, I suppose, your primal state, and you're just more in the, just with that pure energy that they speak of. And yeah, you know, when they talk about, like, there is ways to achieve, I suppose, like it elicits a feeling of DMT. So DMT is the kind of the chemical that our body produces, actually stored in our livers, and we get it actually when we die, you know. So when, like, you hear near death experiences and people saying, "Oh, they've seen these mad things," it's like nature's way of giving you one last kind goodbye, you know. And so you get this influx of DMT as your kind of circulation of blood or oxygen to your brain starts to kind of lower. And but there is ways to get it through, like the Wim Hof and Kundalini yoga and a few other ways. And I don't know, my thing with the whole ayahuasca stuff, and you know, gaining this is just me, just gaining this higher state of consciousness, is like, so if you like had a kid and he's after ask you're doing homework with your kid and he's like, "God, Dad, what's the answer to this? Like 2 + 2 + 2." Like, you could give him that answer straight away, and he go, "Oh, deadly, thanks, I have the answers to this question." But you could teach him how to get there himself, and then he can always find the answer to whatever the question is. You know what I mean? And that's kind of similar to the kind of ayahuasca approach. I'm trying to find an answer to something. We could get that instant answer by taking this ayahuasca or the mushrooms or whatever, or we can kind of say, right, can I go on a bit of a journey here and find the equation myself and get the answer there myself, like, you know what I mean, rather than having to go down this route, like, you know. Because I can only talk about what worked for me. Like, for me, I find going for, like, being in a flow state, being in a present moment flow state, and that's where I get all my philosophies in my head. Like, when I go for a run, or when I go for a swim, or when I go walking through the woods, going hiking, and I'm just intensely present in the moment, and I get that flow state, like what you're talking about. I'm trying to detach from my ego and just be in the present moment, you know, and try, you know, when I catch my ego, you know, we were talking about the other day, you know, trying to observe my thoughts, or be the observer, don't be my thoughts, just observe my thoughts and be a part, detach from my mind, the same way, like, say you have your hand or your elbow or your knee and your mind, you're not your mind, but you can learn to observe your mind. And that really helped me, because for someone that struggled like yourself with panic attacks and anxiety, was because every thought that I had in my head, I used to believe, you know, if we got a weird look off my boss, or I'm going to get fired today, or if I got a missed phone call, I'm like, geez, one of my parents are after dying, you know, I'd always think the worst case scenario every time it popped into my head. And when I started to realize that I don't have to believe my thoughts, you know, I can let them flow in and I can let them flow out, and I don't have to take them as gospel. And what I learned, that my mind is just a primal tool that's there to kind of tell you all the potential hazards you may face today. Because, like, when you were a caveman, you'd leave the cave and your brain would go into action and say, here, right, you might run into a dinosaur or a saber-tooth lion or a pterodactyl, you know, and you were like, right, Grant, I'll be ready for that. And now we've evolved a couple of 100,000 years, and our heads are still doing the exact same thing, but instead, you know, it's telling us, oh, you might get into a traffic jam, you might be late for work, your boss might fire you, you mightn't have enough to pay your mortgage or what, you know, but it's still doing the same thing. And it's releasing all the stress hormone and triggering fight or flight, but we're carrying around the saber-tooth lion with us everywhere we go, you know. And that's what I learned, is that I need to learn to switch off this problem-solving, problem-finding tool in my head, you know, and be more in the present moment, you know. And for me, that's how I suppose, gained that enlightenment without needing an outside substance. And that's just my take on it, you know. And I know everyone each to their own, like, you know, each to their own. But I just know from doing that bit of mindfulness, doing the meditation, doing the you know, doing some CBT stuff, you know, and regularly exercising and getting in the sea on a regular basis, has led me to a much clearer mind and a much better mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you totally. Exactly what you said there. I mean, I wouldn't advise it for everybody, and even now, I probably wouldn't advise it like for yeah a lot of people because there is, as you said, ways, and that has led me to now see that what I was searching or what I got from that experience, I don't need to go down a substance route necessarily. At the time, it was just something that I found that took me to that place. But now I go and do, as you say, like nature or some meditation or practice some hatha yoga or breath work or running, whatever it is. It can be anything. If it brings you into a state of peace and calmness and brings you back to yourself, it's anything that works. It's the best for you. There's many people out in 7 billion, 8 billion, and they all have different ways that they will calm themselves or bring themselves into a state of presence.
Yeah, I love
And
that. So what? You took the ayahuasca and you had this vision, and it just changed your course of something you wanted to
yeah,
seek
I
in
mean,
life.
that's it. Sorry for cutting across you there. Yeah, but I guess like it's very hard to sum up what happens in that time. But anyway, just let's say the process happened there, and it was a slow process. Actually, after I finished doing the ayahuasca, I came back and I shared it with my family, my parent. Like I wanted to tell my mom like what happened and all that, and she said
Mm.
to me, "Why don't you walk the Camino?" And I didn't know what that was at the time, but I don't know if you ever heard. I'm sure you heard of the Camino. So I walked the Camino like 10 days later. After this, I just packed all my stuff and went walking across Spain and met a lot of people there, and then that was the slowly of opening. Like I started to feel like lighter, and I don't know, there was just an expansion that was starting to happen. And then over the next 6 months to a year, I done a bit more traveling around, and I guess the seeking already started there. Like, what is life? What like where are we? Why are we here? And all of these questions were kind of arising. So then I started to dabble in a bit of meditation here and there. 10 minutes, 15 minutes. Um, And then I seen a thing in Ireland for a 10-day silent retreat. I don't know if you've ever heard of them. Did you hear of Vipassana retreats?
Yeah, it's like silent retreats, meditation, and
Yeah,
things like that. Yeah.
yeah. So there was one up in Louth, I think it was Louth, in a boarding school. I can't remember where exactly it was. Anyway, I went there for a 10-day retreat. Now I hadn't got much experience. As you can imagine, I arrived there signing up for a 10 days silent retreat. Like, and I love to talk. I love a good chat like myself. So,
Yeah, yeah. Can we
um,
talk now?
and the first day came, and it's 10 hours a day, like pretty much sitting meditation, and they're quite strict, they don't let you use chairs and anything like this. So, and I wasn't
Okay.
used to sitting.
So you can't sit
So,
and you can't talk. I don't think it'll last long there.
sitting on the ground, like, but what happened in them 10 days, it was horrible. I mean, I had to sit with myself, like
Yeah.
with this mind,
Mm,
and sit with all of these things that I've pushed away for years,
yeah.
these whatever it is, and they all started rising, and all of anybody or anything that's ever, and it was like it was a storm. It was horrible 10 days, but something in me loved it, or something happened in them 10 days that I can't explain. Like it just something clicked, like a little glimpse, and then that was the start of like,
I
okay,
love that.
this
You wanted
meditation
more.
thing, more,
Yeah.
yeah,
You
more
got
of,
taste and you wanted to keep seeking whatever that was.
yeah, the
I
peace, or
love that.
some peace happened in that time. I don't know what it was.
Yeah, I
And
love that. I love what you're
yeah,
saying there. Just being able to sit with yourself, and that's when I look back to every kind of everything I was ever chasing, even through the alcohol, was an inability to just sit with myself and accept myself, and that's what it stemmed down to. I just couldn't stand to sit in my own skin and be with Colin. I was constantly looking for distractions, whatever it was, doing all these extreme things because I just couldn't bear to sit with myself and sit with them thoughts and sit with them feelings and sit whatever inner wounds or trauma that I had, and my story is actually funnily enough is similar to yours. And like I went off to Thailand about 2 years ago, to do a K1 competition in Muay Thai. And while there, I started this competition, and I was fucking in the hostel. I got talking to this lad who was doing a meditation retreat, and I was in recovery at this stage. I was a few years sober, so I was mad into spirituality as well, and would meditate a good bit. So when this fella started talking about this, I was very interested, and he said, "Oh, why don't you come along?" And I went along to this retreat, and I got talking to this monk and all that, actually a guy from England, and it's just something about this monk, I just found I could see something in his eyes, just real drawn towards him. He had this energy about him that I just thought was wow, just had such an impact on me. And within a few days of listening to him, and doing these classes, I quit the camp, the Muay Thai camp, and just started like you seeking the meditation and the Buddhism. And I went all over Thailand, went to Vietnam and Cambodia, and then down to Bali, and like that, just seeking something. I didn't know what it was, but I just wanted it. I just kept seeking it, and then I came home then, and I was down in Cork in a place called Desnabera last summer, and it's like a Buddhist meditation center, and there's an animal retreat there, and I was volunteering there for the summer, and and just like that, man, it was just for the first time being able to sit with myself and learning about myself, and oh geez, so this is Colin, okay, and sitting with them feelings and not even putting words on them, just feeling the feelings, because I feel we can rush to put a label on a feeling rather than just sitting with it, because I think feelings are feelings. They're really hard to articulate. We can try our best, but we'll never truly be able to describe them. So if you ask me now, like, what's going on with you, I can only pick words and try my best to describe, but only I'll truly know my feelings. And when I started to sit with that and meditate into that, and that's when I started to feel a sense of kind of, a sense of healing within me. Like, does that make sense?
Yeah, totally, man. And that you're just giving yourself space to allow whatever is arising, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. And I think one of the people I follow, it gives a great analogy on that. It's like a well, a well deep in a well. It's darkness there, and every day the sun comes over and shines into the well for whatever it is, an hour or something. And when that light of the sun shines in there, it gives it space for all them creatures, whatever is down there, to give themselves life. It's the same with emotions, feelings. If we don't give them space or life, or just give them the space to be there, and then they're just put back down again. And there's years and years of that thing, stuff putting them back down. It's not very good. Then it all builds up. That's how people have, well, we all, when we go through like these panic attacks, that's what happens. It's just that we've been pushing them down, suppressing for years and years. Well, that's my take on it. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%, man. Yeah, that is the thing. Like, because we're just suppressing the stuff, and the opposite of depression is expression. Like, you know what I mean? And if you think the word depressed, but just depressed and all these feelings, and like growing up in an Irish household, that was the norm. Just travel in the back seat. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
We won't talk
Yeah.
about it. Like, and that's just how we got on. And then as adults, we were doing the same thing. Something mad happened, or we're feeling a certain way. Yeah, just put in the back seat. Once we always have our best foot forward, it didn't matter what was going on the on the inside. Once everything looked nice and shiny on the outside, and as I said, like it's like Brown Thomas on the outside and Tesco on the inside, like, you know what I mean? That we can make everything look great, and then but like that, man, then panic attacks for me started to come up. Though I only got away with that for so long, then I was having all these panic attacks, and all this stuff that I was trying to bury down was just starting to come up, and it would manifest in anxiety attacks or panic attacks or the overreactions, or it's like the mouse trap, like that mouse trap is already there and ready to go. And, just the tiniest thing can set it off. And that was like me with panic attacks, man, and anxiety attacks, that I found that little things could like really push me close to the edge, like, and I was like, why did I feel like that my mental health was on such a thin thread? And it was because all this stuff that I wasn't dealing with, that was just carrying over the years, because I didn't even know how to articulate, or where do I start, or who can I actually open up to talk to about this sort of stuff, like, you know what I mean? And again, an inability to sit with column and sit with my emotions. I developed a cope mechanism called doing. You know, I just was constantly doing. I went from a human being to a human doing. I needed to constantly be distracted. And this is while I'm in recovery. Like, you know, I kind of became a workaholic or a overtrainer or constantly around friends, got addicted to my phone, you know, anything to just get me distracted from sitting with me and sitting with the emotions I had. You know, and you can throw a fucking lick of paint over a grizzly bear, but it's still a grizzly bear, you know, and that's what it was like in
Yeah.
my inner emotions. That I was just looking for any distractions, so I didn't have to sit with it. You know what I mean? And eventually, it just popped its head up. You know, them anxiety attacks, them panic attacks, you know, them breakdowns. You know, it was all from all this stuff that I just couldn't open up about. And then when I finally got to a place where I learned to sit with it and expose all these inner emotions and feelings, it wasn't an overnight thing. It took time. It took a long time. And it got worse before it got better, you know, feeling these feelings that I was suppressing for so long. But I did come through it, you know, and now I'm not carrying around them massive boulders on my back, you know what I mean? That I'm able to kind of talk about stuff as it comes up, like, you know what I mean? Unlearning, man. And that was my thing. I had to unlearn a lot of tools and thinking patterns and ways of getting by that I developed from a very young, from a very young age. You know, I developed, I suppose, all these kind of survival tools or ways of getting by that served me at some stage in my life. But as an adult, they didn't serve me anymore, you know, and I had to learn to drop them and unlearn and all, a lot of old kind of thinking patterns that I had and the ways of getting by, you know, and I suppose doing that bit of work on myself, I was able to do that.
Yeah, like I guess it's the conditioning like that we we're all exposed to at some point, you know, the belief system or whatever. Where do they, you know, all of these things they come from not to blame our parents or our friends around us because that's just the environment we had at the time that we're in. But if we can see past that, we can break that chain, you know, for the next generation or people, you know, even just chatting now to lads in their 30s, like, you know, I mean, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I only
About,
went 30 last week, man. I only
I
went
know,
30
I
last
seen you,
week.
I seen you. You had a nice little birthday down there.
I don't know too many people that know about that now. Still in my 20s until I'm 35, right?
But right, we'll say a lad here in his mid 30s and one just over 20. But you know what I mean? Like just to be able to speak about these things
Mm,
is already a step forward. You know,
yeah.
like when I was younger, like 18, 19, and 20. You know, what nobody really open up and chat about these kind of things, or maybe there was, and I just wasn't aware of it. Also, you know, so that's the thing. It's about that. But
Yeah,
yeah, these go on.
no, yeah, no, 100%. I was just gonna say it is it's just about normalizing something and humanizing, I suppose, mental health. You know what I mean? That it's okay to talk about it, you know, and I think that narrative's getting out there more and more. And I suppose it's just the articulation of it as well that I didn't know. Like I didn't know that other people felt the way I did, and I never heard anyone talking about it. So that's another reason why I kept it to myself. You know, there was no one in the pub saying, "Here, I'm riddled with anxiety. I'm riddled with
Yeah,
fucking low self-esteem." Right? You know what I mean? You'd never hear that, so you'd never turn around and say like, you know, I get that too, you know, because no one else ever talks about it. You never go into work, or that's the narrative you hear in the canteen on the lunch table, or you're out with the lads in the pub watching the match. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm riddled with depression, lads, you know, and
yeah,
or by the way, I'm having suicidal thoughts. You know, you never
yeah,
hear any of this stuff, like, you know, a bit down the arse or at the five aside, or even at the family dinners, you know, like where do you bring it up? Where do you even start? You know what I mean?
yeah,
And that's why I think it's important that I know that at the moment I'm involved with a lot of kind of like volunteering around a lot of support groups around mental health, which is great, you know, like men's sheds or recovery meetings and, you know, with addiction meetings and things like this, where people are regularly talking and opening up about their mental health. And it'd be great to get that out into the mainstream where people who mightn't find themselves in any of these circles, but they can also know that, look, if you are struggling with your mental health, there is places you can go to talk about it. You don't have to wait for that someone to bring it up, or I'm not going to bring it up till he brings it up, and then it's never brought up, and we never talk about it. We just throw it in the back seat and just assume that it's okay to feel like this, you know. But there is always help out there, you know. There's like loads of mental health phone lines even to ring up and just to start the conversation, because it can be so hard and so lonely when we feel like we're the only. Well, look, when I was going through it, I felt like I was the only person that was going through depression or going through anxiety. You know, I never felt comfortable being able to kind of open up or talk to anyone, because I never ever heard anyone else talking about it. But then as soon as I did, it was like, wow, oh yeah, I got that too. Oh yeah, I got that too. You know, and then this is how we kind of normalize it when people say, look, it's all right, and you know, I do that now. I try even with family or with friends, and just be able to kind of say, how are you today? I say, to be honest, I'm kind of feeling a bit anxious, like, you know, or this or that, and being able to be a bit more kind of open with how I'm feeling, like, you know, and not to be afraid to say, yeah, actually, I'm actually seeing a therapist at the moment, or yeah, I'm actually, you know, and whatever it is, you know, and even I get that down to 40 foot when I'm talking to people in the sea, you know, no one's afraid to say, yeah, do you know what, I've a pain in my hole today, so stressed out, work was doing my head in,
Yeah.
just needed to get a C dip, you know, and now I feel great. And, you know, just being able to talk like that is great, you know, or people to be able to say, yeah, do you know what, I've a pain in my hole and life isn't good to me today. I'm really struggling, but I know I'll be okay, and I know I'll get by this, you know. I'm gonna keep doing what I'm doing, and I'll be okay, you know. And I love kind of hearing that kind of talk, like, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's great that like whatever avenue that you can take. There's a lot now. Well, I hope there is more and continues to be more, but it's definitely more in the spotlight, the mental health in Ireland. As far as I can gather, I haven't been in Ireland for the past few years, but I know before I left, it was starting to get more people are being more open about it, and that very, very good things are happening in that kind of way. Like,
Yeah, we keep. So you can't away from your story, man. But I love all these rabbit holes you go down with
all good,
mental
man.
health
It's
and
it's
philosophy.
just part of the.
It's all good stuff, though. So right, you're in the spiritual lands of Leitrim, is it? Or Loud
Wales.
when you were
I was
doing
in
the
Loud.
Loud.
Yeah,
Sorry, the spiritual
we'll
monastery, more spiritual than fucking lords or knock.
uh, no, but
Loud.
anyway, yeah, coming out of that, like there was some there was a glimpse there, and then I was obviously looking for a place. I didn't know at the time. I wanted to go deeper into this meditation thing, and I had a bit of money saved or whatever from the poker that was in my account. So I was like, I'm just gonna live off that for whenever, you know what I mean? So I've done a bit of traveling, and I heard about this place in France, and they also had 10-day silent retreats happening. So I applied to go there actually to do a 3 month volunteering thing. But they told me, oh, you have to do a 10-day silent retreat first. And I thought, no worries. I already done one of these. This will be easy, you know? So I went there, and they actually had yoga involved in it, like hatha yoga, the asanas, like moving the body. And I didn't never really done any of that before. That was 2.5 years ago. And it was a totally different experience than the first one I done. Even probably harder somehow because my body wasn't. I was a lot heavier than I am today. Like I was a lot of weight on me then, and I don't know. I just struggled. But even then, it was enjoyable somehow at the end. And I was staying for 3 months after there in this place, which now is where I reside usually. But obviously because of COVID and being back in Ireland. But
I
yeah,
love
took it
that. So
to
you done it
fun.
like a 10-day retreat that turned into 3 months, and now it's and now we've been there for nearly 3 years.
Yeah, 2.5 years. Basically, I would consider it my home. Like it's a spiritual community there, but it's more than
So
that. Like it's
what is it like that? So it's a yogi retreat outside of Leon, isn't it?
yeah, it's about an hour's outside of Leon. If you fly into Leon's about an hour there. They have a center in Mexico as well. It's called Herdaya.
Yeah, that's
And
derived from Vandanta, isn't it?
yeah, well, Herdaya is a Sanskrit word for the heart, meaning the heart. So it's all based around just being open, and obviously we have the yoga philosophy, and it's a meditation and yoga school, and
And like,
yeah,
what
so
is yoga philosophy?
well, I mean, yoga itself is the science of yoga, like it's thousands of years. You know, there's not only what we know today through yoga like what if I said to you, or I don't know, my ma, or they just see it as an exercise kind of thing. You know what I mean? Whereas you're moving the body, and yeah, you're doing a bit of exercise. Whereas it's an original as a spiritual practice to moving the energies within the body to align, to quieten the mind, to make the mind fluctuations of the mind quieten down, where you can sit in meditation without all of this movement happening. That's hatha yoga, like the movement of the body. There's many forms of yoga. There's the yoga of knowledge, just of like, who are we really, diving deep into that question, who am I? Like I won't go too deep into like the ins and outs of it. Then there's like devotional yoga, which is called Bhakti yoga, people that chant or sing, you probably see like the likes of people, Hare Krishnas and stuff like that's what you consider Bhakti yoga, devotional. So there's all different branches of yoga, but they all lead to the same thing. And it's a union between the mind, body, and spirit, bringing everything back into alignment in a way. So yeah, when I arrived there, I didn't know any of this stuff, like it was 2.5 years. I was a lad, grew up in Ballyfermot and moved to Lucan, and I'd say like that was a far cry away from any yogi. And,
yeah. No, they didn't do yoga back then, did they? In Ballier. Bally yoga.
Bally yoga. Yeah, no, but something was fascinating about, because I've always, and going back to the poker thing, I've always been fascinated by how people, the mind, what I was saying about strategy and stuff. I'm not saying that yoga is anything like poker, but the mind, we study philosophy of yoga, so it goes into like how the mind, what is the mind first of all, how does it work, all of these, basically what you touched on also, we call them samskaras in the yoga philosophy, which is like subconscious tendencies, what you were talking about earlier about going back into these things, and we all have these tendencies. The mind will always keep going in loops and
the
loops,
assumptions and the
different things. You have these subconscious tendencies, and you probably notice in your life, many people, and I've noticed myself, things will keep coming into your life, or patterns or whatever, will keep until you address them, or until you've learned the lesson from it in a way, you know what I mean? So
yeah. And that's something from Buddhism, isn't it? The way they reincarnation, that you'll keep going over your same patterns until you learn to overcome them and not give in to them desires, because they say like all suffering stems from desire, and that we can all learn to overcome whatever that craving is, that we'll keep re-experiencing the same suffering. Like if you keep getting into like toxic relationships, or if you keep meeting judgmental people or angry people, or if you keep having these negative situations in your life, that's because you're not dealing with them in the right manner. I don't know, this was from what I know from Buddhism, and that the universe will keep putting them in front. Like if I'm a judgmental person and the universe is a giant mirror, I'll keep meeting judgmental people until I can learn to deal with my own judgment, like, you know what I mean? Or if you're an angry person, or whatever you kind of attract into your life is something that you need to work on yourself, because if you spot it, you got it,
No, this is, I wouldn't be too, I don't know so much about Buddhism. I've studied a bit of it, but like I think all these traditions, they all kind of have similar how would you say, like philosophies in a way. Not all, maybe you'll read some of them, and spiritual traditions, they're a bit different, but in the same, they're all pointing back to the same thing, you know what I mean? Yeah, this is it. There's the circle of life, whatever, if you believe in reincarnation or whatever, it doesn't matter. In this life, whatever, the one that you have now, you'll see these patterns, as you say, if you're in toxic relationships, or if you have problems with certain people, or you look at certain way, or the thoughts, they just keep continuing until you either just observe them or start questioning, where did these beliefs come from? Where, that's what I started to do. Like, where were all of these ideas or beliefs that I had when I was in my teens, or from all of these addictions I had? What was I searching for? And it's like the same thing. I always looking for happiness in the wrong things. I think you touched on it. It's like I always wanted money, or, relationship, or, when I had this, then this will make me happy, and it's, I know it's the cliche of like, but when you turn all that attention inwards, and that's when you realize that you can only make it, the happiness only comes from yourself. Nobody else can go and put it inside of you. They might be a trigger for it, like a relationship, or, a nice car, whatever it is. It might trigger your happiness for a certain amount of time, but in the end, it'll either make you miserable or it's going to go anyway. So,
Yeah,
you know,
it's so true, isn't it? I'm reading a book now. We were only talking about it, Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, and it's he talks about that whatever we get the happy from, whatever we get attached to that gives us our happy, has the power to take away the happy. That whatever we're given that power to. So you say your job is your sense of purpose. What happens then when you retire? You become depressed, or if your looks are your sense of beauty and your sense of happiness, then what happens when we start to get old and we might start to lose them looks? Would that mean that you're no longer a beautiful person, which is not the case? Or your success, I bought a brand new car, eventually then that car will get older, your neighbor will rock up with a nicer car. Does that mean you're no longer successful? Like, and it's like whatever we give this thing, as you said, the belief system, that my belief is, if I get if I get really fit, then I'll be happy. Or if I get loads of money, then I'll feel successful, and this is the belief system that I've incorporated. And then I do that, and maybe I might be happy for a day or two, but that gratification will wear away. And when I have 1 million, I want 2 million, and on to 10 million. So for me, I needed to not put, like, as I say, all my eggs in one basket when it came to happiness and purpose. It's like the villagers that live next to the river, that river, when that's flowing and that's full of water, happy days, you know what I mean? It'll always be flourishing with water. But when the drought comes along and there's no more water, does that mean they all perish from thirst? So so like me, my form of happiness, that I have to learn to not put all my happiness into one thing, or not to develop all these that this will make me happy, or that will make me happy, and I'm finding a sense of purpose and meaning in things. And one of them things, I suppose, are the things I can't measure today. They're the things that make me happy. The things that my ego can't measure or compare. Things like nature, things like meditation, things like helping other people, things like the sea. I can't put a measure on these things. And they're usually the things that help me the most. But I can put a measure on money. I can put a measure on, like, the amount of fucking followers you might get on Instagram, or you can put a measure on how big your house is, or how new your car is, or how much money's in your bank account. These are all things that I can measure and compare, and they're the things that I can get attached to and say, right, my happiness is, if this is going my way, then I'm happy. But if it's not going my way, that means I'm unhappy. And like you said, I have this belief system, and I'm putting my happiness into this thing,
yeah, it's two of the, in yoga, the philosophy, and we have called kleshas. There's 5 kleshas which causes suffering, very similar. And what you said is basically 2 of them: aversion, or attachment, and aversion. Like, so things we get attached to, will make us suffer. And then things we push away, like, oh, I don't like this situation, I don't like that person, I don't like this, I don't like, it's likes and dislikes, where we're always trying to get ourselves always, I like this. But if you just accept things sometimes, like, not all the time, there's certain situations, but just accepting all experience that arises. I mean, it's hard to do all the time. I'm not saying I'm doing that all the time, but there's a lot of space that comes with that. Like, I don't know, and I guess that's coming from the meditation, like 2.5 years now where I started, and I'm still just learning. It's like this, every time you sit down, I get less, there's less frustration and anxiety or anxious that arises. But when I started to sit in meditation for 10 minutes or half an hour, I couldn't sit still, man. That's crazy, like,
Yeah.
it's the body, we're just not, you, like, as you said, we're just doing. We're not used to just sitting still and letting whatever arises arise, and just watch
Mm.
it, as we touched on earlier, to be that observer. And that's one of the major things also in yoga, this witnessing, this total um, non-judgmental, just allowing witnessing of thoughts, emotions, feel whatever it is in the meditation or images.
Yeah.
Just let it all come out, you know.
So like you're if we have a like if we have a say label bad thought or label good thought, like don't label them at all. Just let them come in and let them flow out, and just as you said, be the observer. Be like the guy sitting down on the grass looking at the clouds. You know, the same way you look at your thoughts. When this thought comes in and says you're not worthy, you're not good enough, or you don't look good, or you don't have enough money. You know, just look at them. We all get them thoughts. Just look at them going by as if you would clouds in the sky. Like, you know, it's as soon as we attach to one of them thoughts and start to identify with them, then that's like we start to take that as, yeah, that's a fact. I'm not good enough, and yeah, that's a fact. I don't look good enough, or that's a fact. I'm not a good person, you know. But when we can just watch them thoughts come in and out, and just the head doing what it's doing, and not the, and that is the thing, like non-judgment, like that's the and that's it, like self-inquiry and non-judgment, like, and that can be the hard bit, you know, because I can be this, I can have that inner critic in my head that's constantly in the back of my head, you know, giving myself a hard time because I have this perfectionism in me, you know what I mean, that what I do, you know, or or how I do it isn't good enough, you know what I mean, that I constantly have this critic that's following me around with a whip. No, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. But if you done it, I'd be like, that's amazing, man. That's brilliant. Fair play to you. But when I done it, I just can't give myself that bit of credit or let myself off the hook. So it's that thing again of being kind to myself and let that inner critic in my head to kind of like not give him the mic, not to let him run the show. You know what I mean? And but there's days when you're feeling low and you start to attach to them thoughts, and before you know, and that's the thing, like our feelings lead to thoughts, and our thoughts leads to our behaviors. But if I stop it where the feeling starts, if I'm feeling anxious, I tend to have anxious thoughts. And if I have anxious thoughts, it might lead to anxious behaviors. You know what I mean? But at the start, when I'm having them anxious thoughts, you know, just sit with them and feel them, and not label them in a judgmental manner, you know, just let them come in and let them come out. And it's a hard practice, you know, and you know, it's really hard to do sometimes, you know, just to be able to watch your thoughts and to sit with yourself, you know, because I can still struggle to sit with myself, you know what I mean? I'll be like, or if I go, I'll sit here, and then I'll be sitting there and I'll be looking at the other chair going, no, maybe I'll sit there, and then I'll sit over there. No, maybe it was comfortable back where I was sitting, and I'll move back to, you know, rather than just stay where you are. Sit with yourself, sit with what's going on. And it's not comfortable. It's not always comfortable, and it's not always you know, it's not always a nice thing at the time, but it's always beneficial, you know, it's always beneficial to be able to kind of just sit down and sit with whatever is going on, like, you know, and sometimes, yeah, it can be hard work, but that's where the good wages are at, like, we're in the hard work, being able to sit with yourself, being able to meditate. And through, I suppose, through doing that today, that I became a place where I like who I am today, and I like the thoughts that go through my head. And you know, I remember hearing this old analogy about mental health, and it's like saying your mental health's like it's like a bad neighborhood, like, you know what I mean. You shouldn't hang in there on your own, you know. And but when you start to do that work on yourself, you know, all the baddies that might be hanging around that neighborhood start to clear it out, and it becomes a lot safer place to be, like, you know. And that was the case. Like, when I was really struggling with my mental health, you know, my thinking was so savage, like this savage, vicious critic in my head that and he was the gospel. He spoke gospel through everything he said was a fact, you know. And I heard all these analogies for fear, you know. One is future events appearing real, or false evidence appearing real, or false expectations appearing real, you know, where we get these assumptions and just go with them. And I found that when my mental health was really low, I got more attracted. I was addicted to the pain, that my natural default was self-pity, like, you know what I mean? And I was very lucky that I got out of that, but it's just mad how we can get into that, like, you know.
Yeah, but I guess just even in the noticing of that, you know, because when you bring the unconscious to the conscious, there's just, you know, even just when people start to notice, oh, there is this voice, or whatever you want to call it, the
Yeah.
mind, and I noticed that there's a stepping away from that. You know what I mean? There's a yeah, there's an openness there that you've seen that there's a voice. You know, because for many people, they don't even realize that they're going around their day very unconscious, getting ruled by this voice in their head. So just even noticing that one thing that I would say to people is just to be able to sit down even for 5 minutes and 10 minutes a day, because people are always on the go. Just to sit down, you don't even need to call it meditation. You can just sit down. You don't need to sit in a cross-legged position. Can be in it anywhere, and just close your eyes and notice that you're not going to sit. Your mind's not going to be blank. Like meditation is not getting nothing to come through your head, because I mean, it happens where you'll have states of total stillness, but at the start, it's like there is so much there that you don't realize in your day today, because you're going around all the time and there's so much things happening. When you sit down with yourself, you realize there is many different thoughts that are happening, and just the realization of that, just the observing, the stepping away, zooming out, whatever you want to call it, that's the start. That for me was a big start. Like,
I love that. And what,
yeah,
like, what kind of stuff have you learned in this? What would you say? It's a yogi, it's a study of yogi, or study of
it's
yoga.
it's a it's a meditation and yoga school. Now I did serve, like I served in the kitchen there for 2 years, but I also I also done some the teacher training there, and we have many, as when you're part of the community, you can go to the lectures, you can go to the classes, you can go to anything that's on. Basically, it's a beautiful place there,
Yeah,
and we have a strong community of around 30 to 40 people when they're open. Obviously, we're not open now, but and as you said earlier, just surrounding yourself, we were talking about with people, like that was a big thing. Like 30 or 40 people there with the same mindset. You know, that doesn't mean problems don't arise just because you're in this community. They do, but it's just they're dealt with easier with people that
I love
are
that.
open.
Yeah.
So
I suppose
it's
it's
beautiful.
about developing a sense of resilience. That's not being able to kind of extract the tools that we've learned from these kind of environments and bring them back into, like, I'd say it was a big transition for you, going from this very gentle kind of vibe in southern France in the yogi retreat, and bringing that home to Luke and to the family, and being able to kind of practice it at home. Like, I'd say that was a bit of a test for you.
Yeah, man, it's funny you say touched on that. Yeah, because you think in that when you're in that environment, it's very easy to be open and living from this space of this, yeah, openness. I would say it's more, there's less of this contraction, and then coming home, you don't want to change. You don't want to try and change people around you, because then they start to think like, well, this is from my own experience. I've seen that. I did at the start say like, oh, look at this way of life. But people have their own journey. I can only be myself. And if they see a change in me, if they ask me questions, then I can come to them from that space, not saying like, I think you should do this. I think now,
Mm.
don't get me wrong, I still do sometimes. um, I realize I'm saying something like, whereas I'd say it to somebody else, but it's not my place to say sometimes what people should and shouldn't do. But one thing that a major change that I would recommend if people are suffering from mental health or feeling a bit down, one thing that really changed for me was when I changed my diet. Like, that was like probably the biggest thing, on top of all everything else, of course. But such a I got such a shift from, I was eating so bad. When you're not feeling great, you want to eat a lot of shitty foods and all like that. And when I changed my diet, that also changed my mental state. I'm sure you've had that
Yeah,
yourself. You felt that.
yeah, 100%. Like over the years, I think. I suppose when I first came into recovery, over the years, I kind of did develop a craving for shitty food. You know what I mean? That I'd crave, like, sugar and high calorie food. And I was already talking to my friend about this a few weeks ago. He's actually a recovering heroin addict, and he was laughing, said he put down the spoon and he picked up the fork, like, in talking about was he developed like an eating disorder. And I could identify a lot with that, like, that I was craving sugar, but again, I was just eating my emotions. Like, I was just craving all these bad foods, man. And it wasn't until I went and seen a nutritionist, and my diet got a whole lot better, that I started to feel a whole lot better. Because it's that thing, you are what you eat. And if you eat garbage, you're gonna feel garbage. If you went out to your car and you started putting crap in your car, and next thing you're breaking down on the M50, or you're breaking down going for the spin, You know, that's because you're putting crap in your car. But if you're putting crap in your body and you're having breakdowns in the middle of your job or in the middle of your relationship or in traffic jams, that's because you're putting the crap in your body, like, you know what I mean? And so it's all about the fuel we put in, like, you know, if we're putting in good, healthy, nutritious food, you know, we'll feel a lot better, like, and that's what, for me, it comes down to three simple things when it comes to my physical health, like, you know, that makes me feel great, is drinking loads of water, eating very well, and sleeping very well. You know, if them three things are good, no matter what's going on in my life, no matter what the circumstances are, if those three things are okay, I'll feel great. But if everything, all the circumstances in my life are amazing and I'm not eating right, I'll feel bad. If all the circumstances are amazing and I'm not sleeping right, I don't feel good. If all these circumstances are amazing and I'm not drinking loads of water, I feel crap. You know, so it's once they're my like three basic non-negotiables. If I'm eating good, sleeping good, and drinking loads of water, I feel great. Like, you know.
Yeah, they're good. They're a good start. Yeah, definitely sleep also. That one, when I don't know if you're with yourself, but when I was, when you're having a bit of issues with mental health or whatever, I think people tend to stay up later. And well, I couldn't sleep at sometimes, actually suffering with some panic attacks back in the day. But my sleep was suffering, and then I realized when I started to get more, like when I was getting more sleep and going to bed a bit earlier, definitely this was also a huge thing, that the shift, you know what I mean? These small things we can change, that can be a huge difference.
Yeah, no, no, 100%. But it's just them little subtle changes, like, you know, just trying to like eat a bit better. And like, were you introduced to a new diet when you got over to France, and or
Yeah,
how were you like?
well, over there it's all vegetarian and all organic food, like in the place,
And
with
what
like
tips would
really
you give to someone now like that, what are interested in changing their diet, like?
well. First thing I wouldn't like, what I done was quite like not extreme, but like people think when they hear, oh, you should change your diet. I see it a lot, like just going straight, like, okay, I'm cutting out all the sugar, all of this, all of that. I've done it myself, and it can work, but make small changes. Just start with small things, not only with diet, but just even with, say, the likes of you, if you feel interested in doing a bit of meditation. There's plenty of apps out there now for just 10 minutes, 5 minutes a day, if that's how you want to start. Same with changing your food, like just change one meal day to be, well, if you want to eat meat, whatever you want. But vegetarian food, I eat, like, just good, healthy food in that meal. And then slowly, maybe a week or two later, you can see how it goes. Everybody's different,
Yeah,
with small changes, because, as we are this society, we always want everything now, like
yeah, I want
fast
everything
food,
yesterday.
everything like, yeah, yesterday. So, like, uh, I'm I've been there and I still do it myself, like I want it now, like, but it's a slow process, the
Mm.
changes that can happen and mine has been 2.5, nearly 3 years now since I started to change my diet and lifestyle, and I feel like I'm only like it's just learning baby steps, like, and
Yeah.
if I can help just one or two people see beyond like how they're feeling, because I was overweight and also, as we touched, like not feeling great, in a bad place and all that. And it just changed a few small things and slowly start talking to a few people. Like there's always better things to come, you know what I mean? There's definitely the up, you know what I mean?
I love that, and like, like you touched on it at the start. You know, surrounding yourself with good people, good positive people. Like, you know, and that if you want to be somewhere, you know, surround yourself with them types of people. Like, you know, whatever, every good food you eat today, any good person you hang around with today, you know, any fucking you know, any kind of positive podcast you listen to, you know, any bit of exercise you go on, they're all, that's planting healthy seeds today. And you talked about it, like we want everything. We want the forest today. We don't want the seeds today. But if we plant them healthy seeds today, that forest is going to flourish in a few years' time. You know what I mean? That if I'm surrounding myself with goodness, good diet, good people, people that are going to serve and empower me, And then in the long term, that will start to manifest in my life. You know, all the podcasts that I listen to are positive, you know, they're motivational, they're self-development stuff, you know, investing in myself. And any kind of successful people that I listen to, like the likes of Tony Robbins, you know, Pat Dively, you know, all these guys that I really look up to, you know, they always talk about education, but not in the education, the academia way, more in the self-development way, that we're always learning, that we're always seeking. Like you were seeking something, you had a connection with something very deep, and you said, oh, I want more of this. I've had a little taste, and I want more of whatever this is. You know what I mean? You went chasing those cookies, whatever it was, man. You went chasing the world for that cookie jar, you know, but you went seeking. And that's the thing, man. We're always seeking. Even if we're seeking something, then down the line, we might change part, we might go down seeking something else. But the thing is that we're always growing and we're always learning. So for me today, it's like I'm planting healthy seeds for tomorrow. You know what I mean? And they always say, right, how can I better myself today? And if I'm gonna compare myself to anyone, I'll compare myself to the guy I was yesterday. You know what I mean? And that's the only person I compare myself to, because you can spend all day comparing yourself to people all over the place. But like, there's only one version of you. You're the best version of you out there. So why even bother comparing? It's like a goldfish going, geez, that monkey's a much better climber than I am. Or the monkey going, geez, that goldfish is a great swimmer. You know, but we all have different attributes and different skills. And it's about learning, what are your attributes? What are your skills? You're unique to this planet. There's no one else on this planet like you here. So master that, master your uniqueness, you know, celebrate your uniqueness. Like, you know, and then when I started to realize that, I was like, yeah, I'm fucking unique. I am special. And I want to start investing in that. You know what I mean? I want to start seeking things that interest me, and stop living in a way to make someone else accept me, you know, because my whole life I was always trying to get people just to accept me and trying to fit in, you know. And I remember when I was younger, you know, I used to listen to like this dance music and I couldn't stand it, you know, like all these heavy techno music. And like I love the Beatles, I love Stone Roses, you know, I love fucking Pink Floyd, you know, and Nirvana, you know, all these bands that I love, but it was so frightening to listen to around the lads because I thought they'd judge me or reject me, you know. And I remember like just thinking to myself, like, and like imagine down the line, looking back at your life, you're on your deathbed or whatever, and you're like, I wish I only could listen to the music we wanted rather than listen to the music we wanted you listen to. And that's like my analogy for life now. It's to say, am I listening to the music that I wanted, or am I listening to the music that you liked? You know, and that was the thing. When I got to a stage and I realized I don't have to hide anymore or pretend to be someone else, I started to blare my music as loud as I could. And that's an analogy. I don't go around blaring music. Your neighbors will go mad. But what I'm trying to say
You're
is that,
going around with speakers in your pocket.
yeah, the boombox, Pink Floyd. Wish you were here. But you know what I'm trying to, I'm using it as a kind of metaphor for whatever you want to be, whatever it is. Don't be afraid to be it. Don't be afraid to celebrate your uniqueness, celebrate your weirdness, celebrate you, because you're fucking special, and there's no better version of you out there. You know.
That's I mean, there's nothing. Yeah, as you said, like there's just be yourself. Like and
Yeah.
I guess a lot of people in life, I mean, maybe some not, but like yeah, we do spend a lot of time before we realize that, and then we're like, all right, just be myself. Doesn't matter. Don't care really anymore. You know what I mean? But one thing I will say is that talking about all of that about making changes to things and maybe like planting seeds, which is I think definitely necessary. But also the change always just happens now. Like I know that's also cliche, like the power of now. Like, but no, also start now. Like I think you were saying to me the other day about that saying. I can't remember what you said to me, but it was great. Like one day or today or was it that? I can't remember what you said
One
to me.
day or day one. It's
Day
how
one,
does
yeah, that's how you said.
yeah, it's how this podcast started. Actually, a man in a mysterious man that I've actually never seen since. Said that I was down the 40 for him. We were just floating, and I just got talking to this random guy, and I was telling him about this goals list, and I'm going to start a podcast. I want to do an Iron Man. I want to do all these things. And he's like, "Well, you want to ask yourself, are you going to say day one or one day?" And I was like, "One day or day one?" You know, I was like, "Yeah, this is going to be day one." And yeah, that's how the podcast started. So yeah, man. It's
Yeah,
mad.
that's it. Like just from this, this moment, we can always just be in this moment. There's not. we're so used to projecting the future, or
Mm.
our past events. But if we literally just live in this moment, there's nothing really that can touch us now.
Yeah, it's so true, man. And like I and that was, I suppose, one of the biggest that was one of the biggest lies that I was living for most of my life, that I was sacrificing today because I thought tomorrow would be better. That I was never in the moment now. And I suppose that's the whole kind of materialism kind of ideology that we live in, that when that thing tomorrow will be much better than the moment you're in now. And I could never enjoy now because I was always saying, I want to get over there, I'll be happier. When I get that thing, I'll be happier. When I get that outcome, I'll be happier. And it just total destination addiction, whereas I was never kind of able to be in the moment and be with myself now and be in the present, And when I started to realize then that you're never happy at tomorrow because you only have now, we only have this present moment, like, you know what I mean? And to be able to live more in the now and in the moment was a game changer. There's a great book I read, Edgar Tolle, The Power of the Now.
I
He
know, yeah.
talks about it, that all we have is the present moment. And I think it's in a Disney film. I think it's in a Kung Fu Panda, man. There's so much wisdom in Disney films. It's more wisdom than the Bible nearly in them in them Disney films. But that the turtle's talking to the panda, and he's like saying to him like the future is a mystery, history, the past is history, but the present is a gift, and that's why it's called a gift. That's why it's called a present. And that's all we have, man. That's all we have is just this present moment that we're in, like, and we don't have tomorrow and we don't have yesterday. All we have is this present moment state that we're in, and to try and make the most of it. And Buddhism, that we're talking about, they talk about like living in the day, and also 12-step programs talk about one day at a time. Live every day like it's your last day. You go for that seed dip as if it's your last ever seed dip. Meet up with your friends like it's the last time you'll ever see them. Embrace your family, embrace your hobbies, embrace what you want to do. Just like it's the last time you're ever gonna do it, like, you know what I mean? And that's the thing that we can take today for granted because we're already waiting for tomorrow. And people saying, oh, when lockdown finishes, I can't wait for this, or when lockdown finishes, I can't wait for that. Use lockdown as a place that, like we were saying, plant them seeds, and when the lockdown does finish, if it ever will, that will have all these nice little trees grown from the healthy seeds that we planted today. You know what I mean? And just being able to live in the moment and be present, And I suppose that was one of the realizations, and also one of the most difficult things that I've came across was living in the present and being in the moment, because there's so many things out there to help you not be in the present and to help
Yeah,
you distract you from being in the moment. So it's a constant self-inquiry and constantly observing yourself, getting distracted by all the nice shiny things out there.
constant reminder, I think, as well. I'm I'm still, doesn't matter. I don't know. I'm sure there's people practicing meditation or mindfulness many years and they still get caught. Like I think that it's less time now that I feel myself getting caught. It could have been I get upset or annoyed for a week and over somebody's saying something or done something. Now maybe I catch myself after half an hour or an hour still, thinking about it, and then realize, okay, coming back, and it's just this constant coming back to yourself, back into the moment. One of the things in that book, The Power of Now, that is a great tool that I find is, if you take an ordinary like thing that we do on a day-to-day basis, it can be brushing your teeth, it can be whatever, making your breakfast or having a shower. And every day that you do it, make sure you're fully present in that, like all the sensations that are happening if you're having a shower or brushing your teeth. What's like the temp, like be fully, and
Mm,
slowly that starts to creep into all different areas of your life, and then you start becoming more present in everything then you're doing, you know
yeah,
what I mean?
yeah,
And
I
that for
love.
me was a great tool.
Yeah, just like, well, yeah, like that, just washing your hands. Or even I find like just sometimes I can't meditate in the morning, and like just again, just my mind's racing, and I can struggle just to sit with myself. And I find there's active forms of meditation, like being mindful. Like meditation is an activity that you might do throughout for a certain small period of time. But I find mindfulness is something you can do throughout the day, where you're just mindful, or even lack of mind, for a better word, where you're just in the present moment, that you're not in that thinking primal tool that we have as our minds that we touched on earlier, where you're just in the moment. And like I find even at the moment going in spring, man, the birds are so loud. Like, even I sit on my balcony in the morning, it's like an orchestra, you know what I mean? I'm sitting there with my coffee, listening to these birds, and I just make it my business to just be present with this noise, with this beautiful harmony that I'm listening to, or when I go for a walk, I'm kind of observing, noticing things. And it wasn't until I started doing this mindful walk and I'm like, geez, was this 3 hours in my front garden? I'm only noticing stuff for the first
Uh,
time, because
yeah,
I've never been present. Like, how many times have we drove to work about a half an hour journey and we can't remember a bit of the drive because we were in our heads, or just what to make for dinner later, or just I better pay the ESB, or I better text your mom back. We're in our heads worrying about things, and we're never in the present moment. So taking that as an opportunity to be mindful, like, what's my surroundings, what can I observe, what can I notice around me today? When I do that now in Dunleary, I'm looking around, what can I see around me, when I'm walking the piers, or looking out at the ocean, or over the hold, or out with the boats, constantly noticing around me, being more and more and I notice myself going into my head worrying about the SB again, and I come back to the present moment, and I'm hearing the here and now, and if my electricity gets cut off now, I'll blame meditation for it, but mindfulness for it. But you know
yeah,
what I mean, man, and just little simple things like that. And then that if I cut off the supply of the thoughts, they can't bother me. You know what I mean? If I'm having them really sharp negative thoughts, if I'm in the present moment, they just can't come. It's like taking the plug out of the TV. You know what I mean? It's like if I'm in the here and now, away from them thoughts, that chattering mind just can't can't be powered, like, you know what I mean, because I'm not paying conscious attention to the mind. But again, it's practice, man. It's like building up your bicep in the gym. The more you do it, and the more resilience and perseverance and consistency you do with this exercise, the better you'll get it out. Like, practice makes perfect. So it's just a little starting off small. And you can go when you go out for a walk, just notice your surroundings. What noises do you hear? What color are the cars? What years are the cars? Can you see a trend? To play these little games in your head to make you more in the moment, the more present. Like, I mean, count the amount of dogs you might see in a walk, or these little things that just make you more in the moment and more present. Like.
yeah. It's mad the way you said about like having not seeing a tree in your garden. Like I walked into town, I don't know how many times in my life, and recently I was there and I was looking around like, Jesus, were the buildings always this beautiful? Like, or the architecture, and like I don't remember the last time I really took time to like look at them. But just recently, when I come back at Christmas there, I was in town like walking around having a look at them, and such beautiful buildings we have there. And but obviously, when you become more conscious of these things, you like become more aware, as you said. So catching yourself looking at a tree in your garden or the buildings in
Mm,
town doesn't matter what it is.
yeah, it's mad, isn't
Yeah,
it? And like,
mad. Yeah.
do you think you'll ever go back to poker?
No, I mean, as a hobby, I can see myself like dabbling in it, but the lifestyle there doesn't really match with the lifestyle that I'm living now. Not that there's anything wrong with it. I'm not saying, these things, whatever you want to do, but I do love the strategy and the competition side of things. I always was into that kind of, but now I'm just looking to get back to France as soon as we can, whenever that might be. I don't know what will happen there, but yeah, for now I'm in Ireland and just with the family and uh, yeah, just also as you said, like just putting these things which I've learned into action and just trying to live here at the moment and see what happens. Not planning on playing poker though.
Yeah, I love that, man. Fair play. It's some journey being on, like, from going from like professional poker player to going to like study yoga in a kind of in a retreat in France for 2.5 years, man. It's a beautiful journey, man, isn't it? You go from the whole materialism to the spiritualism.
Yeah, but and in that there's still some spiritual materialism that's still there. It's like of
You're
course it's
you're
only
you're
two and
wearing
a half.
the you're wearing the Gucci robe. Yeah, man.
No, but
So
what I mean is, like trying to gather all of these, like the spiritual, like I don't want to say knowledge, but like trying to eat all of the information that you get, like about these things. Because when you start to learn about these things, um, I was fascinated, and I still am, but I took kind of taken a step back since being home at Christmas, just back into normal life here. Nothing changes. Just the inner realm, changes. There's more peace there. The
mm,
journey from playing poker and practicing yoga in my room now in the mornings, like it's a bit different. But
so
yeah, it's beautiful.
the knowledge that you have now, what when you were going through, I suppose that breakdown a couple of years ago, what advice would you go back and tell yourself?
It's a good question. Um, I would just tell myself to trust in myself. Just trust in, yeah, because there's a lot of doubt. A lot of things, but like, and also just follow the path. Like as I said, what led me here is that whatever happened, I wouldn't change it now. Like looking back, of course, there's many regrets that people have in life, but they get you where you are. Just to trust what's happening is, as we spoke about earlier. I know the universe, or whatever you want to call it, the quantum field that we're, this big energy ball, and this consciousness has its plan, and we're just sitting on a ride, just observing what's happening.
Yeah, I love that, man. That's when I found was a game changer for me, when I stopped being the driver and started being the passenger. My own destiny, man. That I'm not running the show. I'm not driving this bus. Just to sit back and observe where this journey's taking me, and you live a lot easier and you sleep a lot better when you're not running the universe. When you just realize you're just a passenger on this journey.
Yeah, man, that was also a big one for me. I mean, still, it's, you feel like, oh, we have to make choices, because we have to seem like
Mm,
we're doing. We can make plans, but if they don't work out, that's just the way it is. What
yeah.
can you do? Like,
Yeah.
I think the one big thing that someone taught me before that really was an eye opener for me is, like, you don't pump the blood around into your heart. You don't, like, make all your organs work. Like, there's no you actually doing that. You know what I mean? So that's just all happening. The body is such an instrument that all of that's happening. It's the same. It's the body, and what's happening outside. It's the same thing,
Yeah,
just on a
that's it.
smaller scale.
Yeah, and that's it. The cycles in nature, man. You're not making your hair grow. You're not making your hair pump. Like, and look at the sea. The tide comes in, the tide goes out. It's all these cycles in nature, and then the less we interfere, a lot of the time, the better things are. And like, yeah, you like spot on. We need to make them decisions. We have free will for a reason. But for me, not drop like worrying about stuff that is out of my control, that I'm powerless over. And I have two categories for things that kind of rattle around my mind today. It's if something in category A is action, and the other thing is handed off to the universe. If I have something troubling me, I ask myself, can I take any action that's kind and necessary to resolve this? And if not, it goes into category B, which is handed off to the universe. What B would be, and every time it pops back into my head, oh, I'm putting you back into that box. Oh, there it is again, back in the box. Oh, so to pop back in again. I'm powerless over this outcome. I can't do anything about it. Just hand it into hand it into the universe box, and that's what I mean by being a passenger like that. I'm not, oh, geez, the outcome of this or the outcome of that. And, you're just freaking out and worrying about stuff that you're completely powerless over. But when you realize just be able to hand this stuff out to the universe, like your boss is you've this big load of paperwork on your desk, and your boss walks over, takes all the paperwork. Oh no, don't worry, I'll look after this. You just sit there and you just worry about being happy. That's your primary purpose today. You be happy and help other people, and that's all you need to worry about today, buddy. Yeah, I'll worry about all this paperwork. You stop. This is the business deal we have. I worry about this stuff. You worry about being happy and helping people. And man, that's the business deal I have with the universe today. That all the stuff that's out of my control is out of my control. I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to worry about what other the guy just stay in my own lane. I don't need to worry about what Mary down the road is doing, or what the government's doing, or what they're doing over in America or over in China. You know, I'm just worrying about, right, who can I help today, and what can I do today to make me feel better? You know, and that's about it. Like, you know.
Yeah, and also helping others. You're saying, like, just even doing this, or whatever, volunteering. Just helping others can also be a way. Giving up yourself. You're kind of giving up your services. Like, that's another form of yoga, karma yoga, which is called. We won't go into that. It's another 2 hour
It's another
talk.
podcast, is it? Part two. We
It's
do now.
also
We do now Joe Rogan and do a 5 hour podcast.
yeah. You also touched on free will. That's another. It could be another 2 hour subject. Uh, it's like, is there free will? Is there not? And there's many different. Yeah, it's another 2 hour talk. That one.
Yeah, it's weird. I heard it talking this before. It's like, bro, you have free will. Like, squeeze your left hand and you do it. Like, your head just goes, like, do something to show me your free will. And I raise my right hand. But it's like, yeah, but who put that thought there? Where did that thought come from? I
Yeah.
think
So
Carl
you
Jung
have to
talked
find choice.
about it. Like, like, who put that thought there? Like, you didn't think that thought. Where are your thoughts coming from to think that? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just going down these rabbit holes. Like, you can go on and on and on and on. Like.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's profound. But right, so before we end the podcast,
Yeah.
one question for you: how would you define happiness?
Um. Good question. I don't want to answer from something that I've heard. I feel like I was about to say something.
Well,
You
let's hear that. Let's hear that answer. Then let's hear your answer.
know, happiness is abiding in your true nature. That's what I would have said, because I heard somebody saying like that. Just I heard somebody saying that.
Okay, so like just being true to yourself, being true to your values,
Resting in yourself, like resting in your
being
your
comfortable with yourself. Like,
deeper than that, like resting in yourself, not without concepts, without like you know without any all of these things that I am this, I am that, and the, just
yeah,
resting in that, in whatever arises.
yeah,
But what I would say, that was somebody else's answer.
yeah.
um
That came to you intuitively, man. You know.
yeah, no, but for me, what is happiness? Happiness is when I've lost my, like, losing the mind, like losing this thinking mind, this primal, when I'm just in the flow, when I'm just in the moment of, I don't want to keep saying the now because it's such a thing, but just being present with whoever I'm with, or myself. If I'm just with myself, just being present with whatever's arising. That's happiness to me.
I love
Yeah.
that, man. Yeah, just being in the now. Yeah, I love it, man. Right, Steve, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, man.
Yeah.
You've talked
Thanks very
about
much for chatting to me.
being at the top table, to the yoga mat, to the to the, to the big hand, to the deep breaths.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure, man. And yeah, I forgot that. So that, when you were close to losing the 1.2 million, what was the card you lost, and what were the cards you had?
I had two kings in my hand. So if anybody knows how to play poker, I had pocket kings, and I raised, and the other guy had ace king. So an ace was on the river. The last card out was an ace. It was like,
So is this like a freak coincidence, like a freak chance
and
thing?
I mean, it's like, obviously it still happens. It's just it's one card to come. He can hit three cards. He has three aces to hit, which are in the deck.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's not like, it's not a crazy thing, but it's just one of them. It's the last card. So it's like, but
Yeah.
it's online. It's online if anybody wants to watch EPT Barcelona 2017 live final table. There you'll see the heartbreak, and yeah.
Love it.
But before we go, I just want to also say that Herdaya, the place, the community which I live, they do um retreats. Obviously not now, but when people, if they feel the calling, they're quite cheap. They're not like, it's a non-profit organization. So anybody feels that they want to
And
do any meditation or yoga retreats,
how would they find
Herdaya.
more information on that? How do you spell it?
It's a good question. I'm also dyslexic.
So how
um,
it's
No, I do Hridaya.
Okay.
Hridaya. So Herdaya France, and they have online courses at the minute, like over the whole of April and stuff. So if anybody's interested, they're
Sweet.
just getting into meditation or yoga, hit them up.
Hit them up. Okay. So I'll leave it to you with the most spiritual man in Balliar. I hope you're bringing yoga back to Balliar. But Steve, man, it's been great listening to your brother and talking to you. And again, I'm so glad of the people that I meet down by the sea. The most incredible people you meet floating in the sea.
Yeah,
Uh,
cheers for the chat, man.
Thanks, brother. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, you too.
See you, man.